There's a fear in your chest right now that you don't talk about. You smile like everything's okay, but your heart beats faster when you think about tomorrow. You lay awake at night trying to silence that voice that keeps asking, "What if I'm not enough? What if I fail?" And the truth is, fear doesn't go away just because you ignore it. It grows, quietly, patiently, until one day it stops you from moving at all. But this is the moment you draw the line, because fear has stolen enough of your time, your voice, your purpose. This fear, it's not your enemy, it's your invitation. It's proof that what you're about to do matters. That's why your hands shake. That's why your stomach turns. You're not weak, you're on the edge of something real. The only difference between those who build a life of meaning and those who stay stuck is what they do when fear shows up. Some bow to it, but a few feel it and move anyway. They walk through the fire not because they don't feel afraid, but because what they want is bigger than their fear. You're here for a reason. This fear you're facing, it's not a wall, it's a door, and in this speech we're going to break it open. Stay with me, because by the end, fear won't be the thing that holds you back, it will be the fuel that drives you forward. You're feeling something deep in your chest, that weight, that tightness, that invisible force that makes your breathing shallow and your thoughts chaotic. It creeps in when you think about stepping out, speaking up, or showing up, and in that moment fear whispers lies. You're not ready, you'll fail, they'll laugh, you can't handle it. But before you believe that voice, stop. Listen again, not to the panic, but to the pulse beneath it. Because fear is not your enemy. Fear is a signal, not a sentence. Fear shows up not to stop you, but to speak to you. It's not there to chain you down, it's trying to wake you up. It's not proof of weakness, it's evidence that something inside you is stirring, something worth chasing, something worth risking. Fear doesn't visit when you're wasting your life doing nothing. No, it shows up when you're about to do something that matters. Think about it. You don't feel fear when you're hiding. You don't feel fear when you're silent. You feel it when you're about to leap, when you're close to the edge of growth, when you're standing at the border between who you've been and who you could become. That's not a threat. That's an opportunity. That is your signal. It's your soul calling you forward disguised in discomfort. You've been taught to run from fear, conditioned to numb it, bury it, pretend it's not there. But what if fear isn't the alarm of danger, but the signal of direction? What if, instead of asking, "How do I stop being afraid?" the real question is, "What is this fear trying to show me?" Because fear doesn't show up when nothing's at stake. It comes when everything is, and I get it, fear feels paralyzing. It makes your palms sweat, your mind spiral, your knees shake. But look closer. That trembling, that's not weakness, that's energy. That's your body preparing you for battle. That's the ancient mechanism inside of you activating. It's not shutting you down, it's powering you up. Your fear is not the end of the road. It's the sign you're standing at the very beginning of one. You might think courage is the absence of fear, but it's not. Courage is the decision to move even when fear is present. Courage is hearing the same internal alarm everyone else hears, but choosing to act anyway. The most powerful people you admire, they didn't kill their fear. They just refused to let it kill their purpose. They used it. They studied it. They learned to walk hand in hand with it. Because here's the truth you don't hear enough: fear is information. That's it, not an order, not a verdict, just information. It's your inner compass lighting up, saying, "Pay attention, this moment matters." But what happens next is up to you. Do you see fear and freeze? Or do you see fear and lean in? So many people get this wrong. They think fear is a sign to stop. They wait for the moment when they feel brave before taking action. But that moment rarely comes. Confidence isn't what removes fear. Action is. You want the fear to shrink, then move, speak, step. The longer you wait, the louder fear grows. It feeds off your hesitation, but the moment you move, even if your voice trembles, even if your legs wobble, that's when fear begins to lose its grip. Every break through your craving is hidden behind a wall of fear. That job you dream about, fear's guarding it. That relationship you want to heal, fear's in the doorway. That version of you that wakes up energized, fulfilled, and on fire with purpose. You can't reach that without walking through fear. But here's the secret. Fear is loudest right before the breakthrough. The closer you get to change, the more it roars. Not because it's stronger, but because you're about to grow beyond it. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know it matters. If it were easy, everyone would do it. But you're not everyone. You were built for more than comfort. You were designed to expand, evolve, and stretch, and growth. It doesn't live in the safety zone. It lives on the edge of fear. Fear is not there to punish you. It's there to prepare you, to train your focus, to sharpen your senses, to pull out the version of you that only pressure can reveal. Think of a sword. How does it become unbreakable? Through fire, through force, through friction. That's not destruction. That's refinement, and you are no different. You may feel fear right now, and that's okay. It means you're alive. It means you care. It means you're facing something that has the potential to shape you into someone stronger. Stop running from it. Look it in the eye. Name it. Feel it. Then rise anyway, because here's what fear hates most: your movement. Every step you take in spite of it. It shrinks. Every word you speak while it's screaming at you to stay silent. It fades. Every choice you make to show up, to try again, to not back down. That's how you break its power. So when fear shows up, don't shut down. Tune in. Ask yourself, what am I about to do that's scaring me this much? What's on the other side of this fear that I've been too afraid to claim? And most importantly, am I going to let this fear define me or refine me? You have been given this moment for a reason, not to retreat, but to rise, to lean into the very thing that terrifies you, not recklessly, but courageously. Because fear, when faced, becomes fuel, and the more you face it, the more it turns from an enemy into a compass. No, it won't feel comfortable, but greatness never does. The question is not, how do I make fear disappear? The real question is, how do I move anyway? You already have the strength. You already have the voice. What you're waiting for is on the other side of action. And when you finally decide that fear doesn't get the final word, that's when you begin to live fully, boldly, unapologetically. That's when you stop existing and start becoming. Not because the fear is gone, but because you are finally louder than it. Fear is a signal, not a sentence. It's the call before the climb, the tremble before the transformation. And now, right now, you get to decide what it means. Will it be the reason you stop, or the reason you start? The truth is, you're not the only one who feels it. You're not the only one lying in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if you're the only one paralyzed by this invisible weight pressing on your chest. You're not the only one who hesitates before taking that risk, before stepping out, before speaking up. You're not alone in your fear. Everywhere you look, people are carrying it, quietly, privately, silently. Some hide it behind a confident smile. Some cover it with loud words. Others mask it with distractions, scrolling, joking, overworking, anything to avoid facing that deep, nagging fear inside. You walk past them every day. They look composed, in control, but inside they're just like you, wondering, can I really do this? Will I be enough? What if I lose everything? Fear doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about how strong you look or how much success you've had. It touches everyone, the bold, the shy, the young, the experienced. Fear is the great equalizer. It stands at the doorway of every meaningful pursuit. But the difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck, it's not who feels fear and who doesn't. It's who chooses to stay in it and who decides to move through it. Most people, they stay. They build a life around fear. They shrink their dreams to match their comfort zone. They trade passion for predictability. They choose what's safe, even when it slowly drains the life out of them. They wake up every day feeling that quiet ache of what if, but they bury it just deep enough to function, because stepping outside of fear demands more than desire. It demands decision. It demands that you show up even when your voice shakes. It demands that you take the first step without knowing what the second looks like. And most people aren't willing to do that. So they stay, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief. And here's where your power begins, in knowing that you're not the only one afraid, but you might be the only one brave enough to act anyway. You might be the only one in the room who decides, I'm not building my life around fear anymore. You might be the only one who says, enough. You don't have to be fearless, you just have to be willing. Willing to feel it and keep moving, willing to doubt yourself and still choose growth, willing to stand in the discomfort and trust that something greater is on the other side. That willingness, that's what separates those who watch life pass by from those who rise and shape it. Because, let's be honest, staying in fear is easy. It gives you all the reasons not to try. It protects you from failure, embarrassment, rejection. But it also protects you from purpose, from progress, from becoming who you were actually meant to be. You will never meet the strongest version of yourself inside the walls fear built for you. You'll find them out there in the unknown, in the risk, in the leap. And yes, it will terrify you, but it will also free you. And once you realize you're not the only one afraid, something changes. That shame you carry, that guilt for still being scared, it starts to lift. Because you understand this is human, you're not broken, you're just becoming, you're not weak. You're walking through something most people run from. But don't stay there, don't settle. Don't sit in fear so long that it becomes your home. You weren't made to survive in fear. You were made to overcome it. You were made to grow through it. You were made to break the cycle that kept those before you small and build something braver for those who come after. It takes one decision, one choice to say, I feel it, but I'm moving anyway. One choice to stop waiting until the fear disappears and start using it as fuel. And when you do that, something powerful happens. You stop seeing fear as a cage and you start seeing it as a clue, a sign that you're on the right path, that what you're about to do isn't meaningless, it's meaningful, and maybe, just maybe, the fear you feel right now isn't here to stop you at all. Maybe it's here to remind you that you're close, that you're alive, that you're standing on the edge of something that matters. And the question is, will you stay where it's familiar? Or will you walk into the unknown and finally meet the strength that's been waiting inside you all along? You keep waiting for the moment it disappears, for the fear to dissolve, for the nerves to settle, for your heart to stop racing before you speak, before you act, before you try. But here's the reality you don't want to hear. Fear doesn't leave. It doesn't just vanish because you asked it to. It doesn't walk away because you read the right book or listen to the right podcast or lit the right candle. Fear stays. You just learn to walk through it. You see, that's the shift that changes everything. It's not about eliminating fear, it's about redefining your relationship with it. You stop waiting for it to go away, and you start learning how to move while it's still there. You stop expecting clarity to come before you take the first step, and you begin to trust that courage is something you build in motion, not something you wait around to feel. The strongest people, the ones who break generational patterns, who build legacies, who rise out of silence and self-doubt, they don't move because they're fearless. They move despite the fear. They've simply accepted that fear walks beside them. Every day, every moment they dare to grow, and they've learned how to keep walking anyway. You keep thinking there's a version of you who wakes up one day and says, "I'm not afraid anymore." That version doesn't exist. The real strength comes when you say, "I'm afraid and I'm doing it anyway." When you stop negotiating with fear and start moving forward regardless of what it shouts in your head. It'll scream things like, "You're not ready," "You are," "What if you fail?" "You might," "What will they think?" It doesn't matter, because the alternative, staying stuck, silent, and small, isn't an option anymore. Walking through fear doesn't mean you stop feeling it. It means you stop letting it decide. It means you feel the tightness in your chest and still raise your hand. You feel the trembling in your knees and still step forward. You feel the lump in your throat and still speak your truth. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about learning that every time you face fear and take a step, even a small one, you weaken its grip, and you will stumble. You'll have days where fear feels louder than your courage. That's normal, that's human, but every time you rise again, every time you push forward even when it doesn't feel good, you grow. You stretch. You build a kind of power that can't be faked, earned only through showing up when it's hardest to. The people you admire, the ones who seem bold and unshakable, they've just walked through fear enough times that it no longer controls them. They've stopped waiting for comfort and chosen conviction. They've stopped letting fear be the final voice. And you can do the same. You might still feel your heart race when you take the risk. That's okay. That just means your soul is still alive. The goal was never to silence fear. The goal is to not let it silence you. Because the moment you realize that fear can walk beside you but doesn't get to lead you, you take your power back. And here's the truth: every breakthrough, every transformation, every moment of purpose on the other side of this journey requires this walk. This messy, uncertain, trembling walk through fear. You don't get to skip it. You don't get to bypass the discomfort, but you do get stronger, and you do get freer, and you do get to become someone who looks back one day and says, "I remember when I was terrified, and I did it anyway." That moment is coming, but you've got to start walking now. Not when you feel ready, not when the fear leaves, but now, while your voice is still shaking, while your steps are still unsure, while the old doubts are still trying to drag you back. Because every step you take is a signal not just to fear, but to your future self. A signal that says, "I won't be ruled by this anymore." That's how you reclaim your story. That's how you change the pattern. That's how you become who you were always meant to be, not by outrunning fear, but by walking straight through it. Because fear will always be part of the journey, but it won't always hold the same power unless you let it. And what you do in those moments when fear tightens its grip, when everything inside you screams to retreat, will shape everything that comes next. Not just what you feel in the moment, but what you become in the future. What you do in fear will define your future. It won't be the easy days that shape your legacy. It won't be the comfortable decisions that mold your character. It'll be the moments where you were scared out of your mind and still chose to show up. It'll be the seconds where your doubt was louder than your faith, and yet you moved anyway. That's the turning point. That's where futures are forged, not in comfort, but in courage. Think about the moments that changed lives, your life, history, culture, progress. They never started in calm. They were born in chaos, in resistance, in fear, but someone stood up anyway. Someone said, "This might break me, but I can't sit here and do nothing." And that decision, that one step forward in fear, that became the foundation for everything that followed. You can plan all you want. You can map out your future in your head, set goals, make vision boards, write affirmations on your mirror. But if, when fear shows up, you shrink, none of it matters, because the reality is your future isn't built in your imagination. It's built in your response to fear. That's the battlefield. That's where the war is won or lost. Fear is the gatekeeper to your next level. It stands in front of every dream, every purpose, every relationship that's real, every version of yourself that's waiting to rise. And when it steps forward, you've got two choices: run from it and stay exactly where you are, or face it and rise into who you were meant to become. There is no in-between, and here's the hard part: fear doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes it disguises itself as logic. It whispers, "Wait until you're ready. Make sure it's the perfect time. Let's just be smart and play it safe." But that's still fear. It's just dressed up in rational language so you don't recognize it. But it's still doing what it always does, holding you back. You can't afford to let fear write your story. You can't afford to make decisions rooted in what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Because those choices build habits, and those habits shape your identity. And before you know it, you're living a life that doesn't even look like yours, a life designed by fear instead of faith. But when you choose to move in fear, when you take action despite the shaking, despite the uncertainty, something inside you shifts. It rewires your brain. It tells your nervous system, "We're not victims here. We're in control." And suddenly, fear becomes less convincing. Not because it disappeared, but because you've proven you're stronger than its voice. You don't get stronger by avoiding the fight. You get stronger by stepping into it. You get clarity not by sitting still, but by taking messy, courageous action. Your breakthrough will not come by waiting, it will come by choosing to act when it's hardest, by choosing to speak when your voice is trembling, by choosing to stay the course when your mind is begging you to run. Every time you do that, you rewrite your future. Every act of courage becomes a seed planted in the soil of your destiny. And soon, those small moments of bravery grow into a life that looks nothing like the one fear tried to trap you in. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. Being present in the moment of fear and choosing to lead your life anyway. Not with guarantees, not with perfect timing, but with relentless, imperfect courage. This is the work. This is the place where your future is formed, in that tension, in that decision, in that sacred space where fear meets action. And every time you choose to act in spite of fear, you send a message to your future: "I'm coming for you. And nothing is going to stop me."